Hi guys, Al Smith here. Welcome to another mini lesson. This one is about getting the best score. the goal is of the game is to get the best score possible on each hand. And the score is measured in points. And what we want to do is we want to maximize the number of points we get, minimize the number of points that the opponents get. So let's just take a look at the possible range of scores that you can get. And it's pretty wild. Okay, if you bid 7 of a contract, 7 hearts, 7 no trump, and you go down 7 doubled and redoubled, you're going to lose 7,600 points. If everybody passes, all 4 hands passes, you get a score of 0 right in the middle. And if your opponents bid 7 of a suit and you double and they redouble and they lose all 13 tricks, you'll get 7,600 points. Now, the extremes never happen. You have to be crazy to bid 7 and double and redouble with nothing in your hand and give your opponent 7,600 points. However, I have had hands where I have lost 2,800 points, and I've had hands where I've gained 2,800 points. So there's some pretty big numbers involved here. Now, one of the areas where you get into some of these extremes potentially is called the sacrifice. Okay, and what the sacrifice is, you're in essence saying, hey, I think I can do better by making a higher bid and intentionally going down than by letting you make the contract. For example, if you go down to undoubled at 4 hearts, that's undoubled, they get 50 points per trick, be 2 times 50, that's 100, you get a minus 100 points. Okay, if the opponent bid 4 spades and they made that contract undoubled, they would get 420 points. So which would you rather have? Well, I'd rather have the minus 100 instead of the minus 420. Because that's a difference of 320 points. That would be 320 points more than the opponent's got. So that's the basis of the sacrifice. Let's look at some of the dimensions in bridge that contribute to trying to determine how you're going to get the best score. The most significant factor is the strain. Now, in bridge, we have 5 strains. We've got 1 club and 1 diamond, 1 heart, 1 spade, and 1 no trump. 1 diamond is higher in rank in the bidding tree than clubs, and hearts is higher than spades. Now, clubs and diamonds are called the minors, and hearts and spades are called the majors. Now, let's take a look at this. Okay, if you bid a minor, you get 20 points per trick. And that's what's called the trick value. So if you bid 1 club and make 1 club, that's 7 tricks. You're going to get 1 times 20. You get 20 points. Okay, if you bid in hearts or spades, the majors, you're going to get 30 points for making 1 heart and 1 spade. That's 50% more than in the minor. Big difference. So there's a huge difference between the minors, clubs and diamonds, and the majors, hearts and spades. Now in no trump, for the first no trump trick, you get 40 points. Okay, so if you bid 1 no trump and make 1 no trump, you get 40 in terms of the trick value. That's 100% more than clubs or diamonds and 33% more than hearts or spades. So you can see that there's a very large difference in what you get based upon the suit you bid for no trump. Okay, the entire bidding system is structured to maximize the number of points. So it gives preference to no trump over the majors and preference to the majors over the minors. So when you're thinking about how the bidding system is structured, how the bids relate to each other, remember, they're based upon this difference in the trick value. All right, now, in addition to that dimension, there's another dimension called the gain bonus. And the gain bonus is a big bonus you get for bidding a game contract and making it. So you get rewarded for your skill and your bravery. Okay, so let's look at what it takes to get a game bonus. Well, you need the bid needs to have 100 plus trick points. Okay, so let's see what that means in terms of the different strains. In no trump, that's 9 tricks. And in order to do that, you need to bid 3 no trump. Okay, and it's 1 times 40 for the first no trump trick, and 2 times 30 for the second and third. So that's 140 plus 2 times 30 equals 100. So if you bid 3 no trump and make it, you get the game bonus. Okay, in hearts and spades, it takes 10 tricks because you've got to have 4 times 30 is 120. So that's, does it get anything extra because it's 20 more than 100? No, it's just greater than 100. But it also said if you bid 3 hearts or 3 spades, that's 3 times 30 is 90, is not enough because it's not greater and equal to 100. So in order to get the game bonus, you have to bid 4 hearts and 4 spades and make the contract in order to get the game bonus. In clubs and diamonds, it's even worse. Now you have to take 11 tricks. Okay, 5 times 20 is 100. So you can see that by bidding 3 no trump and only having to take 9 tricks, that's a lot more preferred than 4 hearts or 4 spades, taking 10 tricks, and definitely a lot more preferred than bidding 5 clubs or 5 diamonds and having taken 11 tricks. Okay, so again, this creates a huge preference of for no trump contracts over majors and majors over minors. Okay, so this is a very significant dimension in the game because of the size of the game bonuses. Now let's look at the slam bonus. Okay, and the slam bonus is something special that you get in addition to the game bonus if you bid a small slam, which is a 6th level contract and requires you to take 12 out of 13 tricks, or a grand slam, which is a 7th level contract, and you have to take all 13 tricks. These don't happen a whole bunch. It takes a lot of skill in terms of bidding in a lot of situations in order to find it and bid it, and then a lot of skill to make it. So the slam bonus is the same for the minors and the majors and no trump. The only differentiation is the trick value. So let's take a look at the trick value in terms of bidding at the 6th level. 6 no trump is worth 10 more points than 6 hearts or 6 spades because that first no trump trick is worth 40 versus the first major suit trick being worth 30. Now, it's actually worth 130 more than 6 clubs or 6 diamonds. And when you look at 6 hearts or 6 spades, it's worth 120 points more than 6 clubs or 6 diamonds. So you again see that the differentiation comes in with respect to the suit or no trump that you're in. Okay? Now let's look at another dimension here. This is called vulnerability. Okay, and this was introduced in the bridge back in the 1920s. And what it did is it added a whole nother layer to the risk reward equation by giving bigger game bonuses and slam bonuses if you're vulnerable or not vulnerable. It also has bigger penalties if you get set. Okay, so you've got more points if you make the contract. You lose more points if you don't make the contract. So that's the trade-off. So let's look at this in terms of the game bonus. If you bid game and you're not vulnerable, you get and make it, you get 300 extra points. If you're vulnerable, you get 500 extra points. And for a small slam, it's 500 and 750. And for a grand slam, it's 1,000 and 1,500. Now you can see that you get a lot more if you make the same bid vulnerable as you did not vulnerable. Let's say that you bid made set of no trump. Not vulnerable, you get an extra 1,000 points. Vulnerable, you get an extra 1,500. These can make a significant difference, especially if you're playing for money. I don't advise playing bridge for money. The best players always win. Now, how do you make decisions in bridge? Well, you're going to do this based upon the risk-reward equation. Okay, and how do you do, what is a risk-reward equation? Well, you're going to determine what the expected outcome is of two different outcomes and compare the expected result. And what's the expected result? Well, I'll show you. I'll give you an example. All right, now what we're going to look at here is the opponent's bid 4 hearts. Now, you could either pass and allow and see what and let them play the contract, or you can bid 4 spades. So what's the expected value of these two outcomes? Well, let's look at if you let the opponents bid for play the contract at 4 hearts. If they have an 80% chance of making that, you're going to get, and the result would be if they make the contract, you're going to get a minus 620 points in duplicate scoring. Okay, if the probability is 80%, you're going to take 0.8 times minus 620, and that'll give you a minus 496. Now, there's a possibility that you might set them, say it's 20%. And because they're vulnerable, you get 100 points for setting one trick. You get, so you take 0.2 times 100, that's 20. You add those two together, it says your expected outcome, if they bid 4 hearts, is minus 476 points. Okay, so yeah, that's not real good for you, right? Now, let's say that you've got an alternative there, that your hand says, hey, I could bid 4 spades, and if we make 4 spades, I think there's a 30% probability that we could actually make this. Okay, so take that outcome would be 620, multiply that times 23, that would give you a positive 186. Now, on the flip side there, if you go down 1 double, then you're probably going to get doubled if you're sacrificing. If you go down 1, you're going to get 200 points. So you multiply 0.3 times 200, that's a minus 60. And the other outcome is down 2. And there's a 40% probability there, and then you get 500 points there. You should take 500 times 0.4, that's a minus 200. You add those together, you get a minus 74. Now, if you look at that and go, well, which outcome would you prefer? It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. You would prefer to have a minus 74 versus a minus 476. So, given that you've gone through all of these mathematical mental machinations in your brain, you make the decision and you bid 4 spades. That's called a sacrifice. So, over time, we don't go through and calculate all this stuff in our heads. We kind of get a feel for, yeah, it looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and bid 4 spades. Okay, and we might look at our hands and say, yeah, I expect I'm only going to go down 1 or 2. And as long as I go down 2, it's going to be a good positive outcome. So I'm going to go ahead and bid. Okay, I'd like to say that I could sit there and do these mental calculations in my head, but I can't. So, we kind of wing it, okay, based upon what our experience tells us we should be able to do. Okay, some generalities about sacrificing and how to use these different measures. Okay, if you're thinking about sacrifice, it's pretty dangerous to do a lot of times when you're vulnerable and the opponents are not vulnerable, because you have bigger penalties if you get set compared to the bonuses they can get in terms of making the bid. Okay, now with equal vulnerability, it's kind of 50-50. It's less risky. Okay, but the least risky situation is when the opponents are vulnerable and you are non-vulnerable, because opponents get a bigger game bonus. So instead of getting like 300 points for a game, they get 500. So that's easier to say, well, I can get set and keep the amount I get set to less than 500, because the expected penalties are lower. So let's take an example here. Okay, a couple of examples. Let's say that the opponents have bid 4 hearts and they're vulnerable, and that you're not vulnerable. And you say, well, I think I can bid 4 spades. And, as a sacrifice, and they're going to double you. Okay, so you can actually go down 3 and get a score of a minus 500, which will be a lot better score than a minus 620. Now, if you went down 4, it would be minus 800. So you can see what you view the expected result to be is to be the determining factor of whether you go ahead and make this bid. Now, something that comes up that I actually do quite frequently, because a lot of times people will get to a small slam, let's say 6 hearts, and they've got a distributional hand, and we've got a distributional hand. Or maybe I've got a bunch of spades. So I can actually afford to bid 6 spades, not vulnerable, get doubled, and go down 7 tricks and get a better score if they were going to be able to make 6 hearts. Now that's the rub, if they could make 6 hearts. Now there have been times when I've done this and I've sacrificed, I've gone down 1,400 points, and the opponents could not make slams. So I got a minus 1,400 versus a plus 100. Not a real good decision, but you got to remember, sometimes you get the bear and sometimes the bear gets you. So it's all about judgment. And that's what makes the game exciting, because you can never actually predict what the outcome is going to be, because it gets some pretty strange looking hands. And well, 90% of the time you might be able to do this and come out ahead. 10% of the time, it's going to be a lot worse. All right. So if you got any questions, give me a call or send me an email and I'll help you out. Have a great day.